Hi, I'm Julie.
And I'm Caleb. Welcome to Nursing You, the podcast where we redefine nursing in today's healthcare landscape. Join Julie and I as we step outside the box on an unconventional healing journey.
Together, we're diving deep into the heart of nursing, exploring the intricate relationships between caregivers and patients with sincerity and depth.
Our mission is to create an open and collaborative experience where learning is expansive and fun.
From the psychological impacts of nursing to the larger implications on the healthcare system, we're sparking conversations that lead to healing and innovation.
We have serious experience and we won't pull our punches, but we'll also weave in some humor along the way because we all know laughter is often the best medicine.
It is, and we won't shy away from any topic, taboo or not. From violence and drugs to family and love, we're tackling it all.
Our nursing knowledge is our base, but we will be bringing insights from philosophy, religion, science, and art to deepen our understanding of the human experience.
So whether you're a nurse, a healthcare professional, or just someone curious about the world of caregiving, this podcast is for you.
One last thing, a quick disclaimer before we dive in. While we're both registered nurses, nothing we discuss here should be taken as medical advice. Always consult with your doctor or a qualified healthcare provider for any medical concerns you may have. The views expressed here are our own and don't necessarily reflect those of our employers or licensing bodies.
So let's get started on this journey together. Welcome to Nursing You, where every conversation leads to a healthier world. I feel so good.
I do too.
I know. We just did some breathing exercises.
Little Wim Hof method.
I've never actually done that one. I've done breathing exercises like that before, but not like that.
Yeah.
And I can see how you could really build. It's like running a 100-meter dash in 3 parts.
Yeah. No, it's it for me, it was life-changing.
Mm-hmm.
Going from being really, knocked down with PTSD. I could feel it in every part of my body. There really wasn't any part of me that didn't feel it, and could not do loud noises. My kids, when they would, kids want to sneak up on their dad and scare him.
Mm-hmm.
Not a good idea for me.
Yeah, no.
I mean, I never hit them or, really lost it on them.
Yeah.
But it was, I yelled at them and because it was just painful.
Yeah.
Like shocking and painful.
Painful in your tissues.
Yeah. Like
and
almost like, I don't know, the way I've always described my experience of PTSD is that the parts that were supposed to be in here were outside. And it was almost an electric feeling.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's how I would describe it. Like an electric shock.
Yeah.
Almost.
And so how do you feel that the breath helps that? Like in your mind, how do you picture that?
Well, I don't think I understood it. When in 2017, I went through a program called Warriors Ascent. It's a local organization that helps war veterans, first responders, anybody with PTSD that's in the service community.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually, I believe, the first nurse to go through the program, which was really surprising to me. When I was going through the application process, I remember they said they'd never had a nurse go through, and I was just shocked.
So interesting.
Yeah. I was like,
because nurses are warriors.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
No question. It's a battlefield.
Yeah. Yes. It is.
Yeah. And that's a whole, we could go down that rabbit trail.
Yeah.
Like it's a battlefield that only has a front line. There's really not a second line or a third or fourth.
No.
Second shift,
mm-hmm.
third shift, maybe.
You're the only defense.
You're it. Yeah. So I went through that program and they taught me box breathing, where you breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold for 4 seconds, and you breathe out for 4 seconds and hold for 4 seconds. And I did that for, 4 or 5 months. And I did it every day on my lunch break from 11 to 11:15.
Mm-hmm.
I did 15 minutes of it, just like ritually.
Yeah.
And after a few months, I was like, this is changing me. Like I can feel a change. I feel better.
Like how? Like less.
That electric feeling, that outside of my body feeling was getting closer to normal.
Mhm.
And I just wasn't as reactive.
And so do you think it's the breath? Is it the oxygen? Is it the concentration? Is it focusing? Is it counting?
No, it's the breath. It's,
The oxygen of the breath?
Yeah. So like in Hebrew, the word for man is Adam.
Uh-huh.
And so when you dig a little bit into what that word means, ultimately it means dirt. It gets back to the root of dirt. And so if you think about breath as, if you think about a garden needs to be tilled, and it needs to be, the dirt needs to be moved to oxygenate that land, oxygenate that ground, so that the vegetables and plants will grow.
Yeah.
So we're no different. I think I realized that pretty early on, just like I'm, essentially tilling the dirt of my being.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you have to tend to the garden.
Yes.
You have to go out there. You have to pull the weeds. You have to give it water. It has to have adequate sun and nutrients. And part of the way it gets the nutrients is by tilling up the soil.
Yeah.
And adding that in to make it fertile ground so that new things can grow.
It's a beautiful metaphor.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. So I'm very glad that we did that.
Yeah.
I think it kind of grounds our minds. It just allows us to get in the flow of whatever we're getting ready to do.
Gets connected. Connects you.
Yeah.
Like it reconnected me.
Yeah.
I always said that my healing was kind of on this trajectory. I was doing lots of spiritual healing, and I was working. I was doing all the things that I felt like I needed to be doing to heal therapy and community and all the things. But so I was doing the box breathing for the 3 to 5 months, and I feel like the trajectory was here. It was very slow. When I found Wim Hof method, it went like this.
Oh, wow.
And 6 months later, I was applying for nursing jobs again. Therapist felt like it was appropriate. Everybody in my life felt like it was, a reasonable step for me to take. And I felt like, after taking several years off, I had for sure mixed feelings about returning to nursing. After doing all the therapies, all the different things that I've done to put myself back together, going back to nursing was, it felt like I need to go. I can't let this break me. This isn't going to break me. I have to go back. And so when I decided to go back, it was really, I'm coming back to this to kind of observe it, like an outside observer, like I'm inside of it for sure.
Yeah.
But to understand myself better, I need to go back and confront this fear that I have, because the conditions that I left under were so horrific.
Yeah.
You were there for that event.
Well, it was like you healed enough to, clearly you weren't done with nursing. You weren't done being a nurse, because you would have just went a different direction. You would have just done something else.
Well, I think that I don't think that you ever stop being a nurse.
Right.
Like once you've done it for a sufficient amount of time and developed the mindset of a nurse, it's really very difficult to not be that.
Yeah.
It's becomes who you are.
So it was drawing you, because why didn't you just say, you know what, I'm just going to do my woodworking, and I don't even need to deal with that anymore, because
Well, I would say that woodworking and nursing for me are inextricably bound.
Okay.
They are two sides of the same coin. In a lot of ways, I feel like nursing cultivated in my mind a passive nihilism. Nihilism as a philosophy in the 1800s was really looking at the the coming industrial revolution, science, and all this progress that humanity was making. And the nihilist philosophers were saying that, cosmologically, there's no God, there's no There's nothing beyond the experience that we're having, and we're just biological machines, and it doesn't mean anything. And so that is kind of a backdrop for the idea of passive nihilism, where I've never studied nihilistic philosophy, but I definitely came to a system of belief that through the experience of nursing, watching people suffer, watching people die, that I think once you cross a certain threshold of experience as a critical care nurse, if you don't have proper structures in your life that kind of support you, and if you don't have a proper support system, it will cultivate that passive nihilism. I mean, I think that, to me, in kind of understanding myself, I understand why healthcare workers, to the extent that I'm able to understand, I understand why suicide is so prevalent in the healthcare community.
So when you say passive, it's almost like it's happening to us, where we get to the point that we also feel like there's no meaning. It
doesn't mean anything
because we're just almost like we're going through the motions.
Well, I think that it's impossible for us as human beings, like separate our person out from, I'm a nurse, I'm also a human being, and it is impossible to care for others and not see ourselves in our patients.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't remember any specific conversation with you sitting around in the middle of the night going, don't do that to me. Don't,
right.
I don't want to go that way. If I'm going that way, you better,
Right. I think that's part of why we're sitting here today, is because up until recently, neither one of us ever thought about that. It's not a conversation people have.
No.
It happens so undetected until it's just massively on top of you. And I think talking about it now, because so knowing what we know and having healed, I mean, I look back on my career, it would be totally different. My outlook, my look upon a lot of times how I felt at the bedside taking care of patients would be extremely different. Because if you allow yourself to see a little bit of yourself in everyone, I mean, it would just be different.
Sure.
And if you don't purposely do that, then you just succumb to passive nihilism. You succumb to the Groundhog Day. You succumb to, there is no point in any of this. And that's like a death sentence, honestly.
Well, a slow one.
Yeah.
Because, so much of the, I remember I'm going home and I'm getting drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, whatever your maladaptive behavior was or is, when you go through something, because we aren't, that's one of the failings of the nursing education, in my opinion, is that we aren't properly trained in the psychology of experiencing suffering and death. And so, and then outside of education, once you get into the hospital system, there is no methodology for processing the trauma that we take on.
Yeah.
So I do think that psychological tools are the answer, that educating people, that, like, at the end of the day, like, this is a foundational belief because it's my experience. The system can't help you. It's not designed to help you. Doesn't, like, it is on us to take care of ourselves and set healthy boundaries and do all the things that, hopefully, as what we're doing progresses and unfolds, we'll be able to hand those tools over to people and help them to find healing and find their path out of the clutches of despair that so many healthcare workers find themselves.
And find meaning again. And being able to connect with those who are dying, because it's part of our job, yet maintaining a space or a place for your own feelings about it, because they're separate sometimes.
How do I make sense of this?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of the key, where you can be a nurse and be your whole self, and be your whole self for the people who you're comforting without taking from you
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
or putting up the jail walls,
Yep.
you know, to protect you, that there will be a little bit of like liminal space between, like a plural space
I love that
almost.
word.
Ooh, I do too. A space that's soft and smooth and runs, but separate, but yet needed.
Yep.
And then you have your inside that you can tend to and care for. Yeah.
For yourself.
God, if we could.
Yeah, just
Prescription. Yeah.
If only it was that easy.
I know. But I mean, you just got to start talking about it. And that's what we're doing. I know.
Yeah.
So the breath work this morning.
Got the dirt moving.
Got the dirt moving.
Got
we
us
tilled
talking.
it up. That's right.
Got us feeling good and
and
moving forward.
Yeah. And we could talk for days about that.
Yeah.
So, but since we're all energized,
Mhm.
maybe you could start and tell us, since we talked about my journey, we could talk about how you got into nursing and kind of how that journey looked for you.
How the inside got to the outside.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because see, we kind of talked about the inside going back inside, the outside going back inside.
Yeah.
So now we're going to start from the
circle
inside.
back and
Start from the beginning.
Some space.
Yeah.
I had maybe not a normal path to nursing. I don't know what is a normal path to nursing. I don't even know.
Yeah, it's yours. It's Caleb's.
Yeah, it's mine.
Yeah,
it's my path.
Mm-hmm.
I became a dad for the first time, and I needed to feed my kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not a great student in high school. Some learning disabilities, dyslexia, and whatnot. That really prevented me psychologically. I had a real mental block against school because I just hadn't succeeded in it and didn't believe that I could. So after, losing my job on September 11th, I decided to go back to school. And really that was 8 months pregnant with my first daughter. And 9/11 hits, that first plane hits, all the orders were canceled for the rest of the year. And my boss called me in the office as I was walking out to lunch and said, I got to let you go. You got a job down in Tulsa. I want you to go pack and go. So the trauma of not being able to feed a mouth that isn't even here yet was like too much. So that really has impacted the rest of my career choices going forward. And I'll try to circle back and fill that in. But essentially it made me want to work hard to be in a position of utility, that I was going to be useful no matter where I went, and no matter what I did, I would be useful and learn everything I could about what it was that I was doing. So that happened. I went to work cleaning carpets in Tulsa, and just did not. No, this ain't it. So went to the junior college, took one class. I think I got a B in my first English class, and I was super stoked. I mean, I don't know if I ever got a B in high school. That's an honest statement. So that encouraged me to take another one, and then another one. And finally I found myself on the Dean's Honor Roll and really excelling. I found a way to study, and part of that was choosing to really apply myself, because I had, not really applied myself in high school. I just didn't, I didn't understand why we were doing what we were doing, and didn't feel like nobody understood why I couldn't read until 7th grade. They diagnosed me in 7th grade with dyslexia.
And that's late.
That's late. Yeah. So,
but back then, that's just how it was.
Yeah, it's just what it was. And I'm actually thankful for it now, because it's given me so much. Yeah. Being dyslexic is my creativity, I think, is rooted in that. My ability to look at problems from different angles is rooted in that.
You gotta figure it out.
You just figure it out. Yeah. So I went to the counselor. We were having it was at a point where I needed to make a decision what my study course would be. And I said, what degree can I get that I'll always be able to feed this kid with? And she said nursing. So I just said, Sign me up.
That easy. Sign me up.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
I think I know, I don't have to say, I know that I didn't believe that I was smart enough to be a doctor. Don't necessarily believe that today. But I also have a lot more experience and know that I'm not stupid. Like,
right.
That is such a ridiculous label to put on anyone. And, as much as anybody else externally to myself put it on me, I put it on myself as well. So, but I have enough experience in just in life and in work and all the things that I've done that I know that that's not true.
Right.
So
it's a choice.
It's a choice to like, I don't have to listen to that tape continue to play. There's so much negative self-talk and just ingrained beliefs that we are something that we're not.
Yeah.
Even if I do something stupid, it doesn't mean that I'm stupid.
Right.
I did a stupid thing.
Yeah.
I've done
Right.
plenty of stupid
Right.
things, but it doesn't mean that I'm lacking in any
Yeah, no.
in any way.
Yeah.
And from that experience, I would say that most of the times that I make a mistake, I generally figure out how to use it for a positive change, or I figure out why I did it. So I think that's true for everyone. I think we so often experience things that we perceive as negative, only to find out in the long run it was maybe great or the greatest thing that could have happened in that situation.
Yeah, because I think that's how we learn. It's part of how we learn is by making a mistake or choosing the wrong thing at that point, looking back, reevaluating and making a different choice.
But then is it even a mistake?
I don't really even think so.
Yeah.
It's just a choice.
It's just a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can make better informed choices. And as you evolve and grow and get experience and do all that, you do have more information to make those better choices. But
just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Yes.
I think that's really the key.
Yeah. It's simple, and they say, the one day at a time but it feels true now that I've been able to do that at some points, which is be in the moment and then be in the next moment and then be in the next moment. And you don't need to think about what's going to happen in 10 moments. You're just in the moment. And it feels like the more that I practice that, I have less anxiety, I have less worry, because I literally have no control over what's going to happen 10 moments later.
Sure.
I only have control of my choice and how I behave and what I say and things right in the now. And, that's helped me a lot.
Well, I think that's part of the experience that we share in ICU and ER settings, critical care settings. Like, you're coding someone and, you have this information right now and you make your clinical decision to do X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
And from there forward, everything, whatever the body tells us needs to be done, then we respond.
It really is very true.
It's very much like
you can picture right now in your mind coding someone, and you're not thinking of, you are literally not thinking of anything else.
Nothing.
You're thinking of right now, what's the rhythm? What's my count? How many atropine, when,
how many minutes has it been?
And you're just waiting. So you just continue and continue, and you take in, someone comes and says, oh, the potassium's low, so then right then you do that.
Yeah.
It's very much living in the moment.
It's so, and like we've talked about this before, that it's an expanded moment.
Yeah.
Like, we are not really in like, we're somehow outside of our body.
Yeah.
Like, it's just our brain. Like, puppeteering our hands to do this thing. Like one of the things that I love about nursing and our relationship is in those moments when it was super critical, this person is going to live or they're going to die based on how we perform. I can be doing whatever task it is that I'm performing and without any words, see what you're doing and know what your next step is, and intuit, I need to grab this, and I'm here doing this. do that a little bit quicker and then grab that and hand it to you. And then I'm back to doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And there's no words. It's
No.
just, and vice versa. Like
Yeah.
we both
Yeah.
have lived that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's such an incredible experience
It really is.
to be in that moment.
Yeah. And, you know, then there are experiences because some nurses might be like, that's not my experience.
Mm.
I mean, when you are in a code situation or a situation that becomes life and death and you don't feel like that, it could be experience. It could be, you know, you're just not in the moment at that point. And it may be your own protection mechanism that just makes you escape out. And then you're the one that has to be told, can you go get that? Can you bring that here? Will you do that? And then, you know what I mean? Those, they kind of respond like automatically like that. But it is a very unique situation when you're at the patient and it's like a symphony of, you know, and you know, they teach that in ACLS, you know, that we watch those videos of teamwork, and that's essentially really what they're teaching. Although they make it very clinical and cold and, you know, closed loop communication. Right. That's what they call it. That's not really what's going on. No, I mean, it is, but yeah. And so you do step outside of yourself.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you take the brain does the thing.
Well, I think that you have to get to a certain skill level or experience level where that happens.
Yeah.
You don't start there for sure. I
Right.
mean, like I remember my first code, and I was, you know, I had to be told what to do. I didn't just jump in and know what to do.
Right.
Like there's no way anybody could do that.
Yeah.
No matter how much Grey's Anatomy they've watched.
That's true. Right. But I might be able to do brain surgery. I'm just saying. I might. I could. I mean, I mean, there's like 27 seasons or something in that show.
It's crazy.
It is too much.
It's so crazy.
Yeah. But I think as like those new nurses come in, they sense that song and dance that's happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's very narrow. Don't you think it's right there at the bed?
Oh,
like
for
it's
sure.
a circle
Yeah.
above the patient going on. It's the breathing, it's the heart,
dance.
it's pushing, it's all right here.
Yep.
And once you're in there, the people that are in there,
right. Yeah. That's the dance.
where it is.
Yeah, that's the dance.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how do you think that affects us stepping outside of ourselves to let that happen? Do you think it's necessary to reconnect, or is that what maybe a debriefing is?
I think that's what a debriefing would be. And I think that, I mean, I have a few lines of thought to answer that. One, we don't really have a proper toolkit for how to behave or how to put that back in the box after the chaos.
Yeah.
You know, because it's typically those experiences where you leave and you go, I'm getting drunk tonight, or I'm going to smash something, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that kind of energy that has no place to go is going to find a place to go.
Yes.
One way or another.
Because if you think about the disconnection, so you're literally disconnecting for those moments.
Yeah.
But whatever happens here between that disconnect and then reconnecting, there's something that happens there that if you don't reconnect the mind with the body for that particular situation, that energy is stored somewhere. Yeah. And it's not processed.
Right.
So whether that's in your low back, whether that's in your mind rage, it's somewhere.
Right.
Or whether it comes out in 10 years when someone bumps the back of your car or your kids say mom for the 20th time. You know, I mean, it'll come out. And for debriefing day, places that I've worked have had, you know, a box to check. Did you debrief?
I've never seen that.
And what does that even mean?
What is it? Yeah.
Who says how do you do that? You know? And now I think there's lots of people working. I think lots of people would have lots of opinions about it. But the fact that there isn't a step-by-step process that nurses can go through kind of the same time every time, I mean, that's lacking, you know?
I mean, I think that having, you know, like really objective tool like that
Yeah.
would be handy. I'm of the opinion that we have to cultivate the tools within the individual, that they value these tools and see that they are able to help them navigate that, and then they're taking responsibility for it themselves.
Right.
Because like we at the beginning, that like this system isn't designed to take care of us. So we have to take care of ourselves.
Yeah. We have to teach ourselves
Mhm.
and learn what those are, so that, because, okay, you check the box debrief after a code or a death or something like that. Nobody has time.
Right.
Nobody has more than 3 minutes.
Unless debriefing means changing your scrubs because you're covered in
That
shit or blood.
Right. That definitely could be. You will debrief in the bathroom.
You
as
will
you're
debrief.
changing, because-
Debrief check.
I know, because we need you back out here. We're getting another patient from the OR.
Right.
Okay.
You got 5 minutes.
You got 5
Yeah.
minutes. But I totally agree. I think that if it became more of a practice of debriefing yourself,
Mhm.
better with other people, especially if you can get your charge nurse involved or someone who has some experience with that, especially when you're newer doing it, so that you don't have to do it by yourself maybe the first couple times. But, if that were part of a toolbox that nurses were given for psychological tools to, that would be one time to use it. And I think would help a lot.
Well, actually, we've talked a lot about this. You've actually sent me some resources about it. And I've gone through the nurse coach training, but you're connected to a group on Facebook that is working to get nurse coaches in the hospital.
Yeah.
And that would be the perfect role.
Oh, it would be perfect.
Like if that role really became established within the healthcare system, it could be a tremendous resource.
Yeah. As it would. And, there's going to be health systems that do that and have that and have the ability to provide that. And there's going to be other health systems that are not. And so if you can work for a health system, I mean, I don't even know if that's part of Magnet. That would be an interesting question, but at least having some kind of place to start to do that on your own.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, I think that's what we're trying to create.
Totally.
Is a resource toolkit for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you decided, sign me up, you did, and you started.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you did good. How'd it go?
My first job was working for a pulmonology doctor, transporting his patients. I remember there was one particular gentleman that I would pick up and take to his appointments, and we always had nice conversations. And he was he was a smart guy, and got himself a diagnosis of pulmonary fibrosis and just wasn't doing well. And it was a really quick course. And, I enjoyed the conversation. I enjoyed connecting with people. I think that I've always enjoyed connecting with people and helping people. It's part of, that goes back to the learning disability, being in LD classes, where people were really actually,
more so than you.
Yeah. They had real disabilities. I just couldn't read.
Right.
I had everything else. I just couldn't read. So being in that setting, the teacher would lean on me to provide care to the other students. And, so I think that really formed me as a caregiver in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Not so much like, your experience of taking care of your family at home. There was a little bit of that in my nuclear home, but not like what you had to experience. My caregiving came from that experience. But I think that's just part of who we are.
Totally.
I mean, I don't think that you get to be a nurse without it just being, without being a caring and generous person.
Well, because there'd be other people that they were like, well, nursing, you'll always have a job in nursing. They'd be like, hell no.
Right.
I cannot do that. I mean, there are people just are like, there's no way I can do that. And so I do.
Well, I had that moment.
Yeah.
I definitely had that moment. I had my first clinical day. I almost quit nursing on that day. I had a CHF patient with, necrotizing venous wounds in his lower legs, never seen anything like that,
Yeah.
never smelled anything like
Mhm.
that. And then the manipulation, his hand was right here. He could pick up the remote control.
Mhm.
He could pick up
Mhm.
his fork.
Mhm.
He could pick up his other things, but then it came to his water and
Mhm.
he was like, give me a drink. And I
Yeah.
was like, bro.
Yeah. Excuse
I'm
me.
sorry.
Yeah.
Like, I just saw you do these other things. I'm pretty sure you can do
Yeah.
this.
As you see my hands down
Yeah.
here wrapping your legs.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
give me a minute.
Yeah. Right. And just that whole experience.
Yeah.
I went home and I was like, nope, can't do this. This is not it. This is not for me.
Yeah.
And I was, all evening, the whole night after clinicals, I'm walking around the house going, I can't do this. I can't do this. This is too much. I just can't do this. Woke up the next morning for day 2 and I can't do this. I'm pulling through the drive-through to get my morning sandwich and orange juice. I can't do this. All the way to the parking lot of the hospital. I can't do this. I got this kid I got to feed, and I got this struggle. I got to do it. I just put one foot in front of the other, and I just did it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to quit, and I had so much time invested, and I think it was just the path I was supposed to be on.
Yeah.
So I overcame it and I pushed on, and I still think it was the right decision.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of hell.
Yeah.
It's been a hard road.
Well, and I mean, don't you think lessons that were presented to you during your nursing career would have been presented to you in another form?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that I kind of wrestle with is that, I think we live in a society that's traumatized, and how is nursing unique in the trauma that we take on as nurses? Cops are seeing the same clients that we see. Firefighters are seeing the same clients that we see. I will say, when I went through Warriors Ascent, the police officers and the firefighters, they all saw really terrible things.
Yeah.
But the volume of things that I had seen in comparison to them was exponential.
Yeah.
Because we see all of it.
Yeah.
The worst of the worst. And, and then we're stuck with them, not stuck. We are in that setting for 12 hours and we never leave the person. We're always there. And the emotional drain that takes. I mean, and that's not to say that, the cop that goes from one call to the next call, that's its own unique form. So that's one of the things that I do want to explore in our conversations. How is nursing unique in terms of the trauma? Because, in the research that I've done about PTSD and nursing suicide, it's the number one occupation of all professional professions, licensed professions. It's the number one profession for suicide amongst women, and it's rapidly rising for men since 2013.
Yeah. So
I think that there is something there that makes nursing different.
Yeah, it's definitely different because, I mean, there is a lot of, and I'm married to a retired police officer. The things that they go to are also very traumatic and almost for the event, sometimes more traumatic, if you want to put it on some kind of scale, than maybe what we see. We're not seeing them at the scenes. We're not seeing them with their heads cut off. We're not seeing them, with their guts exploded all over the car. We're just not.
Sure.
So that is traumatic. But I think you also add in trauma from patients' families, administration, physicians, everybody else who has a dealing with how the nurse cares for the patient, I think is a little bit, because it feels like sometimes we're the ones that are doing it all. We're doing it and caring for the patient in conjunction with everybody else. So we have to have so many other people's input. We have to have the physician's input, all the ancillary departments' input. We have to have environmental service there. We have to have people from dietary. We have to have the administration. We have to have the staff. We have to be paid. We have to have the business office. We have to have HR. We have to have the training. So everything is connected. And so it feels like our hands are tied a lot.
Mhm.
So we're doing all of these very, what can be traumatic things and emotional things with a lot of, being bound almost
Mm.
is how it feels to me, that kind of accumulates in the traumatic effect on our body.
Mhm.
So rather than, it's hard to explain, because even the lay people that I've talked to about nursing, and even during COVID and things like that, they're shocked sometimes at, how many nurses are just really struggling from that.
Mhm.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean? You wouldn't know, like, you don't know that? Like, how could you? Yes, they're dying,
Yeah,
and they're leaving the profession in droves
Yeah.
because something is wrong.
Yeah.
Something is wrong. And so it's very hard to pinpoint. And I think with us talking about nursing trauma and PTSD and burnout amongst nurses doesn't negate any of the other professions that happens in.
Mhm.
Or
Sure.
anything, even in, business, or, just a workplace in general can be traumatic.
Mhm.
But there is something, and what we're specifically talking about is within the nursing profession, and mostly in a high acuity hospital setting.
Sure. Yeah.
I think doing my little home health job now and working in a smaller hospital that I worked as PRN, is that something that I could have managed better? Would I have been better off or less traumatized having worked in a less acute facility? Maybe.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do meet nurses that there's like almost a sense of, I don't know, not lacking, or maybe jaded, like that. I feel like that person is more of a whole person as a nurse than I am, because they're not angry in the way that I'm angry. Like,
it feels unfair.
Yeah. Like, you're so cute.
Yeah.
You're like, which is patronizing. Yeah. I'm not trying to patronize anyone.
No, it really is, but you can feel it.
Like, you haven't experienced, you don't have the experience that I have.
Yeah.
And like, even in the clinical setting that I'm currently in, there are people that I know, like, I just, like, you don't have to tell me I know.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't have, haven't experienced what I've experienced.
Yeah.
And we are not on the same playing field.
Yeah.
And like, I'm watching from a different, like, plane of understanding that, like, if that situation that you got going on over there goes bad, like, I'm right on it.
Right.
Like,
which they're completely oblivious.
Yeah. And they're like, maybe not completely oblivious, but don't fully understand.
Well, and they don't have to think about it.
Bad it could get.
Yeah. Right. And they just don't have to think about it. And what a gift that is.
Yeah. Right.
You know, because I think when you see the worst, you will always see the potential for the worst.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And if you've not seen that or been around it, it's not in your limit doesn't go there,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's just a little bit about the PTSD for sure.
Yeah.
And so your first experience was with that guy, and you did pursue.
Oh, yeah.
So you did pursue some nursing. You did pursue the school.
I kept going.
You did. And you graduated.
I graduated.
Yeah.
And I would say my first job as an RN was working with you in the ICU. Previous to that, though, I had worked at one of the downtown hospitals for a number of years as a tech, and got a lot of valuable experience that I, when I say that I've been a nurse for 20 some years, I count those few years that I was there, because, that experience was, invaluable.
Yeah.
By the time I hit the ICU floor after graduating as a new grad nurse, I knew timing of I's and O's and chest tubes and all of the tubes and all the things. Like, I had so much experience with all of that I was able to graduate and just step immediately into my position and it still took a lot of training,
Yeah. I mean, the orientation, but your mind and your mental place was perfect to come into an ICU as a new grad.
Yeah. So,
because not everybody can do that.
No.
And nor does everybody do that.
Right.
And depending on who the manager is hiring, you even good like that with experience, you may get passed over.
Sure.
And so, and I think because you were so open to learning, because when I worked at that time, it was the culture of it. It was very much team learning, being as smart as we can, knowing as much as we can. We focused a lot on education and learning and stepping outside of comfort, doing lots of other things. And I think
we were such a busy unit at that time, and we had such dynamic cases. We had, our CTS program, our surgeons were very active. And so I was stepping into a culture that demanded high performance. Yeah.
And not only that, but you wanted to know everything because you always wanted to provide and never wanted to be
absolutely. Like I wanted, I was truly interviewing the hospitals. I was going into those interviews going, are you going to train me not only in the ICU? Are you going to let me go to the ER? Are you going to let me go do some cath lab? Are you going to like all of those things? And I got all of it. Good, bad, or ugly.
Right.
I got it all.
You didn't even know what you were asking for. That's the best.
Yeah.
And so being a new grad, like kind of describe your experience when you first started in orientation and how you felt going into it, looking back now.
I think, it was a strange mix of knowing that I didn't know anything and arrogance. I mean,
but
which is
almost you need that though.
Have it.
Yeah.
So that is an interesting relationship that like, I know that I don't know but I'm confident enough, arrogant enough, whatever, to push forward. I feel like that's what we're doing here. I feel like we're stepping out of our comfort zone.
Totally.
It's scary stepping out into the unknown, but I have had, I've had enough opportunities to prove to myself that I can perform and adapt to situations and be successful. I mean, not that I haven't failed. I've had lots of failures, but if I focus on those things, then I'll never do anything or go anywhere.
Right.
And that doesn't make any sense.
No, because that's right back to what we were talking about is what's the point?
Yeah.
There's no meaning.
Yeah.
It's passive nihilism.
Yes.
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 Yeah. It's so true.
So we're doing it.
Yeah. I mean, and the air of confidence, I think, is also something kind of along the lines of your personality to become a nurse. I mean, you can't be very passive and standoffish to work in an environment that we did. So it's like you have to have that piece and kind of know how to gauge that a little bit, because you don't want to be too much. You don't want to be too much, I mean, and that's hard to do, especially in an intimidating place as an intensive care unit with other nurses who have been there for a long time. Yeah. And
and those will keep you humble. That arrogance gets smacked down pretty quick.
Yeah.
But it's still there.
Yeah. And necessary.
Yeah.
And so at what point did you feel that it either became that it just changed? Like there was a pivot or a door open or a different hallway that you were going down, or something changed in there for you that, because then you left. We worked together for how long?
7 years.
7 years. Yeah. So around what point, looking back, do you see that you came to the decision to leave? Basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I think
how did that kind of come up, and what were some precipitating factors to that?
I think that we were on a speed bullet.
Yeah.
I mean, I think both of us, all of us in that setting that are seeking the experience, you're just going, and there is no break. There is no pause. It's just, I'm amassing all of this experience. And, while it is all of that experience that makes me a good nurse today, that experience is what ultimately broke me and put me in a position where I couldn't take care of myself, let alone anyone else. So that it was the cumulative effect. I think the cumulative effect of all of that caregiving trauma, of none of those internal structures of the system or myself, my own ability to care for myself, because, you know, I got to take care of everybody else, you know, which, I mean, for me, ultimately ended up in, I would say, a projection. Like I was like projecting onto those around me, like, I need to be taken care of. I'm entitled to, entitlement. That's the word.
Yeah, entitlement.
Because I'd given so much to community, to the people that I've cared for. I'm entitled to, like, melt down. I don't know. Like, I can't keep going. I just can't keep going the way this is going.
That's right. You just know. And that's what's really sad, is that it, for a lot of nurses, it gets to that. And that's kind of where I always wonder, like, how do you prevent from getting that far? And so I think that's why we're talking about the tools and things, but we didn't know any of that.
Right.
So we're just going with on autopilot almost, you know, trying to navigate all of that and all of the, what is the point, the stress of maybe doing things without everything that you need, you know, supplies, staff, physicians, lights, whatever. And then also trying to learn who you are as a person. You know, I feel like I left that out a lot, just because, you know, you're so focused on everything else that it really becomes easy to just be in the background and the shadows of everything. And so it just breaks. I
mean, there were certain cases that I was involved in that were pretty critical that, you know, I think there was one case where a young man, he was just a few years older than I was at the time. And he had taken his own life. And I was basically, you know, I got him, once we pronounced him brain dead, you know, I cleaned him up and got his room presentable, and I let all of his people come in and view him for the last time. And I won't go into any of the gory details, but there was a moment where I could see myself in that position, and suicide became a thought for me. That was, almost like when I think about that moment and that guy, I almost feel like I caught it. Like it was something I could catch, like a cold. And I don't know what that is, but I know that it is attached to the lack of meaning. In my life.
Control.
In control. Yeah, absolutely. Like,
if you felt like you really had control over your own mind and spirit, it wouldn't be necessary. But when there's no control there, anything sounds better than what's going on.
Absolutely.
Right,
yeah. So I'm going to throw this out there. I love this. It's not mine. A dear friend of mine, in our conversation about this, she said, she threw out this word: suicide is the seduction of rest.
Yeah.
How perfectly stated.
Right.
I mean, like, I just want a fucking break.
Yeah. Really. So kind of along the lines of, like, you know, I am getting so drunk. Like, I'm drinking a whole bottle of wine. That very similar, because it's escape. And it's ridiculous sometimes. You know, you're like, oh, I'm gonna have 8 shots. I mean, are you? Is that right? Is that good for you? That's gonna make you feel great. But very similar with suicide. I don't care. No. And so, you know, you think suicide, and intellectually you're like, I mean, that would be a mess. You know, how would you do that? You know, all that. But yet it still remains like an option.
Right. Yeah.
Which is very weird.
Well, scary. I mean, I think also, like, because in that conversation, like, that I brought up earlier, I don't want to go like that.
Right.
Don't let that happen to me. Like, if I'm in that bed, you better, like, fill me up with that bottle of, you know, whatever. whatever drug
Mhm.
your choice is, because and that's the thing, is that we have all the tools.
Yeah.
We know how to do it, and we
Yeah.
know how to be successful.
Yeah.
And that is,
Yeah.
that's part of the thought process,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Because at least a few of the suicides that I am aware of how it was done, it was medical.
Yeah.
They medically
Yeah. Well,
took
we've
care
seen
of
what
it.
works and what doesn't.
We know what works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And I think we've even had conversations like, well, if you really want to get it done,
yeah.
you
Oh,
need to,
absolutely.
don't
Yeah.
take Tylenol.
Yeah.
That's just a slow
That's
death.
just stupid.
Yeah. I mean, that's silly. There's other
Yeah,
ways to
yeah,
get it done
yeah,
much
yeah.
quicker.
And clean.
Yeah.
Like
I
I don't
know.
want to
And-
be messy.
No. And
Yeah.
so how weird that we have those conversations,
So
but we
weird.
do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so almost like it not normalizes it, but buffers it a little bit rather than it being so shocking
Sure.
to talk about.
Well, or to feel
Yeah.
to feel those thoughts,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
as an individual, like you have and I think that's the camaraderie of nursing.
Yeah.
Like that we can have those conversations with the closest people that we work with, and we understand
Mhm.
that we're not speaking seriously about
Mhm.
doing this,
Mhm.
but like
But all the
I've
talk.
had this thought.
Yeah.
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 And that is that's a deep bond.
Maybe that it is a deep bond. And I think that maybe having those conversations keeps people around, and the ones who don't have that conversation, those are the ones that don't make it.
Yeah. Deep breath on that.
Mhm.
That's a heavy topic.
Yeah. So bring us back around to kind of current day and what you're doing, and just a little bit of how that worked out for you.
Well, I would say that after taking my time off from nursing and taking that time to find healing after hitting absolute rock bottom, I was looking at going, like I said, after finding Wim Hof, my trajectory of healing the trajectory changed dramatically.
Mhm.
I would say that 6 months after finding that, I started looking at jobs and thought maybe I could take care of people again.
Mhm.
My license was about to expire, and so I went and I got a job at an IV clinic starting IVs. And I remember,
Mhm.
it had been a good long while since I started an IV, and I was shaking.
Mhm.
I was like,
Mhm.
like I'm here, I'm doing this. This is something I've done 1,000 times before. And I know, and it was surreal how regimented it was. It was just like, it was like riding a bicycle.
Yeah.
Like I just got back on and I started doing my job.
Yeah.
And I didn't lose any skill. It was all there.
Mhm.
It was just something I hadn't done in a while. And that was shocking to me. And there was a healing element to taking care of, like, I've gotten myself back to a place where I not only can take care of myself, but now I can take care of someone else. Like that was tremendously empowering. And it's just an IV, but at the same time, it's an IV.
Yeah.
Not
everybody can do it.
Not everybody can
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
And I got that first one, without even thinking about it. It was just
Such a great feeling.
yeah, it is a great feeling. I love starting IVs.
Me too.
So from there, I did that. I did that part-time, a little more than part-time for a while. And it was a med spa type setting. And so it was super chill and like, not the experience that I had in healthcare previously. And the more I did it, I had a couple of, people that came in with some serious issues and had to refer them out. This guy came in kidney failure, and I'm like, bro, this is the wrong place.
This is not going to help you, man.
This is not it, And because we did do some very basic labs, and
I see. Yeah.
and he was just obviously kidney failure.
Too sick.
So sent him to the ER,
Mhm.
and those little tastes of it
Mhm.
were like,
Mm.
you know,
Mhm.
maybe I could do this
Mhm.
again.
Like a crack in the you
Like,
lift the window up just a little bit.
yeah. So, a few months of that, and I was always trying to start this stupid woodworking business.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not a business person.
Yeah.
I may have I have an entrepreneurial spirit.
Mhm.
I'm here doing
Mhm.
this.
Yeah.
We're doing this.
Yeah.
So I definitely have a part of me that, I was raised around entrepreneurship. So I've seen it.
Mhm.
I know it's possible, but I didn't have that experience. And so at that time I was still trying to make this dream of woodworking a reality. And it was because woodworking and nursing were so intertwined with, my design process.
Hi, I'm Julie.
And I'm Caleb. Welcome to Nursing You, the podcast where we redefine nursing in today's healthcare landscape. Join Julie and I as we step outside the box on an unconventional healing journey.
Together, we're diving deep into the heart of nursing, exploring the intricate relationships between caregivers and patients with sincerity and depth.
Our mission is to create an open and collaborative experience where learning is expansive and fun.
From the psychological impacts of nursing to the larger implications on the healthcare system, we're sparking conversations that lead to healing and innovation.
We have serious experience and we won't pull our punches, but we'll also weave in some humor along the way because we all know laughter is often the best medicine.
It is, and we won't shy away from any topic, taboo or not. From violence and drugs to family and love, we're tackling it all.
Our nursing knowledge is our base, but we will be bringing insights from philosophy, religion, science, and art to deepen our understanding of the human experience.
So whether you're a nurse, a healthcare professional, or just someone curious about the world of caregiving, this podcast is for you.
One last thing, a quick disclaimer before we dive in. While we're both registered nurses, nothing we discuss here should be taken as medical advice. Always consult with your doctor or a qualified healthcare provider for any medical concerns you may have. The views expressed here are our own and don't necessarily reflect those of our employers or licensing bodies.
So let's get started on this journey together. Welcome to Nursing You, where every conversation leads to a healthier world. I feel so good.
I do too.
I know. We just did some breathing exercises.
Little Wim Hof method.
I'd never actually done that one. I've done breathing exercises like that before, but not like that.
Yeah.
And I can see how you could really build. It's like running a 100-meter dash in 3 parts.
Yeah. No, it's for me, it was life-changing. Going from being really, knocked down with PTSD. I could feel it in every part of my body. There really wasn't any part of me that didn't feel it, and could not do loud noises. My kids, when they would, kids want to sneak up on their dad and scare him. Not a good idea for me.
Yeah, no.
I mean, I never hit them or really lost it on them.
Yeah.
But it was I yelled at them, and because it was just painful.
Yeah.
Like shocking and painful.
Painful in your tissues.
Yeah, like
And
almost like, I don't know, the way I've always described my experience of PTSD is that the parts that were supposed to be in here were outside. And it was almost an electric feeling.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's how I would describe it. Like
Yeah.
like an electric shock.
Yeah.
Almost.
And so how do you feel that the breath helps that? Like in your mind, how do you picture that?
Well, I don't think I understood it. When in 2017, I went through a program called Warriors Ascent. It's a local organization that helps war veterans, first responders, anybody with PTSD that's in the service community. And I was actually, I believe, the first nurse to go through the program, which was really surprising to me. When I was going through the application process, I remember they said they'd never had a nurse go through, and I was just shocked.
So interesting.
Yeah. I was like,
Because nurses are warriors.
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
No question. It's a battlefield.
Yeah. Yes. It is.
Yeah. And that's a whole, I mean, we could go down that rabbit trail.
Yeah.
Like it's a battlefield that only has a front line. There's really
No,
not a
you're right.
second line or a
No.
third or fourth.
No.
Second shift,
Mhm.
third shift, maybe.
You're
but
the only defense.
You're it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went through that program and they taught me box breathing, where you breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold for 4 seconds, and you breathe out for 4 seconds and hold for 4 seconds. And I did that for, I don't know, 4 or 5 months. And I did it every day on my lunch break from like 11 to 11:15.
Mhm.
I did 15 minutes of it,
Mhm.
just like ritually.
Yeah.
And after a few months, I was like, this is changing me. Like
Yeah.
I can feel a change. I
Yeah.
feel better.
Like how? Like less.
That electric feeling, that
Okay. So like
that
it's
outside of my
soothing that.
body feeling was like getting closer to normal.
Mhm.
And I just wasn't as reactive.
And so do you think it's the breath? Is it the oxygen? Is it the concentration? Is it focusing? Is it counting?
No, it's the breath. It's,
The oxygen of the breath?
Yeah. So like in Hebrew, the word for man is Adam.
Uh-huh.
And so when you dig a little bit into what that word means, ultimately it means dirt. It gets back to the root of dirt.
Mhm.
And so if you think about breath if you think about a garden needs to be tilled, and it needs to be, the dirt needs to be moved to oxygenate that land, oxygenate that ground so that the vegetables and plants will grow.
Yeah.
So we're no different. I think I realized that pretty early on, just like I'm essentially tilling the dirt of my being.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you have to tend to the garden.
Yes.
You have to go out there. You have to pull the weeds. You have to give it water. It has to have adequate sun and nutrients. And part of the way it gets the nutrients is by tilling up the soil and adding that in to make it fertile ground so that new things can grow.
It's a beautiful metaphor.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. So I'm very glad that we did that.
Yeah.
I think it kind of grounds our minds. It just allows us to get in the flow of whatever we're getting ready to do.
Gets connected. Connects you.
Yeah.
Like it reconnected me.
Yeah.
I always said that my healing was kind of on this trajectory. I was doing lots of spiritual healing, and I was working. I was doing all the things that I felt like I needed to be doing to heal therapy and community and all the things. But so I was doing the box breathing for the 3 to 5 months, and I feel like the trajectory was here. It was very slow. When I found Wim Hof method, it went like this.
Oh, wow.
And 6 months later, I was applying for nursing jobs again. Therapist felt like it was appropriate. Everybody in my life felt like it was, a reasonable step for me to take. And I felt like, after taking several years off, I had for sure mixed feelings about returning to nursing. After doing all the therapies, all the different things that I've done to put myself back together, going back to nursing was, it felt like I need to go. I can't let this break me. This isn't going to break me. I have to go back. And so when I decided to go back, it was really, I'm coming back to this to kind of observe it, like an outside observer, like I'm inside of it for sure.
Yeah.
But to understand myself better, I need to go back and confront this fear that I have, because the conditions that I left under were so horrific.
Yeah.
You were there for that event.
Well, it was like you healed enough to, clearly you weren't done with nursing. You weren't done being a nurse, because you would have just went a different direction. You would have just done something else.
Well, I think that I don't think that you ever stop being a nurse.
Right.
Like once you've done it for a sufficient amount of time and developed the mindset of a nurse, it's really very difficult to not be that. It's becomes who you are.
So it was drawing you, because like, why didn't you just say, you know what, I'm just going to do my woodworking, and I don't even need to deal with that anymore, because
Well, I mean, I would say that woodworking and nursing for me are inextricably bound.
Okay.
They are two sides of the same coin. In a lot of ways, I feel like nursing cultivated in my mind a passive nihilism. Nihilism as a philosophy in the 1800s was really looking at the the coming industrial revolution, science, and all this progress that humanity was making. And the nihilist philosophers were saying that, cosmologically, there's no God, there's nothing beyond the experience that we're having, and we're just biological machines, and it doesn't mean anything. And so that is kind of a backdrop for the idea of passive nihilism, where I've never studied nihilistic philosophy, but I definitely came to a system of belief that through the experience of nursing, watching people suffer, watching people die, that I think once you cross a certain threshold of experience as a critical care nurse, if you don't have proper structures in your life that kind of support you, and if you don't have a proper support system, it will cultivate that passive nihilism. I mean, I think that, to me, in kind of understanding myself, I understand why healthcare workers, to the extent that I'm able to understand, I understand why suicide is so prevalent in the healthcare community.
So when you say passive, it's almost like it's happening to us, where we get to the point that we also feel like there's nothing